Good
down.
afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Big East Rewind. I am Chuck Everson, your 7-foot host from Villanova, and my point guard, my partner, the guy that feeds me the ball, my main man, Sonny Sparrow. How are you, Sonny?
Doing great, Chuck. We got an eagle in the house, man. It's nice.
Can you
to have
believe it?
another eagle.
Can you believe it? It's been 2 now in the last
It
couple of
really
weeks.
is,
We've been
yeah.
trying for 2 years to get the Boston College Eagles on, and now we've got our second eagle in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, I keep Hawkins to Nicky, but he keeps dodging me, man. So we went over his head. We went
right over his head, you know.
That's right.
So, and we got another post player. Now, the difference is, Sonny, you know, he's an undersized post guy, you know, because we have this thing, we go back and forth with the guards. And so this guy is probably a little of both, I would think, right? He's the same height as you, but played my position.
Right. And Gary Williams and Jay both credit our guest.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of work getting done inside.
So here we go. So we got a Boston College Eagle Hall of Famer, Sonny, from Xaverian High School in Brooklyn, New York. One of the toughest guys I ever had to play against, pound for pound. My main man, Roger McCready. How are you, Raj?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Well,
How
good
are
to
you?
see you, and thank you for coming out. I mean, you know, I'm finally, we got caught up with you. It's been tough getting some of your teammates and some of your guys to come around. I'm very glad that you were able to share your time with us tonight.
Yeah, it's a long time, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
You know
yeah.
who Wendell was the one too that was trying to reach out to you as well.
Wendell Alexis?
Yeah.
Another good man. Good man.
Good man. Yep.
Yeah, I took him to a hoop a few times, but yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, listen, I was telling somebody today, because we do our due diligence here, Raj. I don't know if you know that, but Sonny and I are very
professional reporters, just
very professional.
Okay.
And before we get rolling, I just want to ask you a little things, because this game was a lot of fun for your team at the time, but not so much for the team that I played on. And I'm talking about the Newsday Classic. Do you remember when we played each other at the Nassau Coliseum? The Newsday Classic?
I remember that.
I know
who your teammate was, Roger. I know your teammate.
Yeah, Sonny, you got a big smile about that, huh? Yeah. We couldn't get the ball out of Pearl Washington's hands.
That's right. That's right. So
it was showtime, man. He was putting on a show.
And no matter where he went, Sonny, he was putting on a show. You know, I mean, this particular game that I was just asking Raj about was the Newsday Classic. It was Long Island versus New York City, bragging rights. And New York City had a stacked team, Sonny. It's not even close. I mean, they had 7 or 8 future pros, guys like Kenny Smith, Walter Berry, Pearl, Raj, John, Spider Sally, Kenny Hutchinson, Derek Chivas. I mean, it was on and on and on. And
that's a pretty good squad. That's a pretty good squad.
We had about 8 guys you never heard of, and Tim Kempton, you know, so that was our squad. But that was a lot of fun. I mean, it was funny as we were doing some of the lookup stuff, Raj. You pulled up some of the old photos and some of the, you know, for the and the rosters and stuff for that game. It was actually a fun game. It was the first one that they had, and then they continued it for a number of years after that. But man, it was like playing on a racetrack with you guys on that team.
Yeah, that team was amazing. I mean, you know, you listed all those guys that were pros, could have been pros. And, you know, like I said, trying to get the ball out of Pearl's hands was just, with all those guys, it was just ridiculous. I mean, and you guys weren't too bad. Don't try and play it like, oh, you guys had this.
Listen, we got smacked. I know that.
I know, but you guys, you know, guys came out kind of a little cocky.
Yeah, well, that ended quick.
Wait. Little Long Island attitude? Is that what you're telling me?
That's what he's saying. Yeah, he's saying Long Island attitude.
Never attitude out.
You know how the city guys are, Sonny. Come on, you know what that's like.
I know how the Long Island guys are too, man.
I'll say
we
this,
had a problem that it was out in Long Island in the first place.
Well, it was the Nassau
Coliseum. That's disrespectful, right, Raj?
Exactly.
Yeah, right. We always had to go.
Elmer Anderson played too, right? Was he on your squad?
Elmer played too, yeah.
Elmer too, right?
Yeah, Elmer. Yeah, that was Pearl's backcourt running mate, you know. And the thing I remember the most about that game, you talked about Pearl, Sonny. Pearl made a steal and threw an alley-oop pass, bounce pass from half court to Walter Berry, who caught it, rocked it, and dunked it backwards, I believe on Tim Kempton, which was the most incredible pass. Never mind the athleticism of Walt to be able to get it and dunk the ball, but the pass to get it to the rim on a bounce pass was crazy. Never seen that before.
Walter was the truth.
No kidding.
There you go.
All right, so let's kick this off, Raj. So tell us about growing up in Brooklyn and playing at Xaverian High School, and where did you develop your love for the game? Were you one of the guys playing in the parks? Was this something that you picked up at an early age? Tell us about how that all came to be.
It ended up something that I just picked up on. You know, I came up in a family that 3 of my brothers were swimmers, and I had no interest in swimming. So while they went to swim practice down in Brownsville, we all would go to the practice, and I went up to the gym and started playing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it went from there. And so
how old were
you? You just grew. It just grew a great love for the game, trying to be someone that understood the game and read a lot about it. Loved Dr. J, and it just just went from there.
How old were you when you were running in the gym there?
When I started running the gym, I was like 11 or 12.
Okay. Playing against much older guys, right?
Playing against older guys and everything like that. And then I forgot how I ran into it, but I got involved with this AAU team, Trio Crusaders. I don't think they exist anymore. But one of the players on there was this guy named Pearl Washington. And from those years, I'd say like 7th, 8th grade, we ended up playing with the Gauchos that everyone knows, and we just moved on from there. And the playing just picked up, the competition picked up, and we got to know and play against a lot of good players.
Yeah, well, the city was loaded with good players. I mean, you went to Xaverian. I'm sure you played with Chris while he was there too, right?
Yeah, played with Chris Mullen. He came over for Power Memorial, and we played together. Competitively in league, we played together 1 year, but he was at the school for actually 1.5 years. So playing against him in practice was great. It was tough, and then playing with him, we had a great time. Great time.
Talk about those city matchups. In the high school days. What were the teams out there that gave you a challenge? What were some of the players and some of the teams at that time when you were playing?
Well, who didn't have somebody? That was the thing. You had Malloy. Malloy had Kenny Smith.
Kenny, yeah.
Right. You had remember back in the day there was Mata Christie.
Yeah.
Right.
Mata Christie had players. I forgot his name. He went to Marquette.
Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson, exactly.
Yeah, him and Red Bruin and Jeannie.
Red Bruin played there. Yeah, right.
Yep, Red Bruin played there. And the twins. One of the twins. Vern
Maxwell.
Yep.
Wow.
So Vern was there. Then you had you had Bishop Lachlan.
Or Vern Fleming.
Yeah, Vern Fleming. Then you had Bishop Lachlan, obviously Mark Jackson. They had a few players. Everyone had players. So it's like every place you turn.
Wendell was Christ the King. Was Wendell?
Yep. Yeah, Christ the King with Wendell. It was just
boys and girls.
It was tough. And then you had your non-league schedule, which was fantastic. Playing against boys and girls high. Those type of teams. It was every night.
How did you settle into the post, or how was the post your spot? How did that come about? Was there ever like a desire or somebody, hey, let's get him outside, or no?
Not really. I enjoyed playing the post.
Uh-huh.
That was, the toughest, getting after somebody. You remember back in those days, it was just like taking it to somebody.
Right.
Did you have a quote unquote a horse?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
enjoyed
Andre.
it. Yeah. So, uh, you know, uh, shooting jumpers wasn't my thing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so.
you had to have some of the toughest matchups in the country in the Big East low post position.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are the best, those are the best days when it came to everyone. You guys could, you guys know. I mean, everyone from the East wanted to go to a Big East school.
Mhm.
And we knew everybody. We played against everybody in AAU. And, everyone from, your Ed Pickneys to your Andre Hawkins to your, Patrick Ewings, it was tough. And I took the challenge. Hey, the thing was, I wanted to be on the court. So, there at BC, it's like, okay, you had Jay Murphy, he wasn't going anywhere. And Jay Murphy wasn't going to play, center either. So,
Right.
I took the challenge.
Well, we talked to Jay, and we mentioned that to him and said, hey, I asked him, because Jay really wanted to play the 3, and I said, well, you were lucky you got Roger to came in to kind of sacrifice his game for the good of the team. I mean, because from our point of view, Roger, it seemed like they put you there because you were the best equipped to play at that spot at that particular time. Never mind, height and size and things like that, but I didn't. Now I'm learning that, you kind of liked playing there. Now I get it. But we had asked Jay, what did it feel like to have somebody sacrifice their game for yours and for the team? So it was a pretty big deal at that time.
Yeah, it was, it was a open spot. And at that time, because Jay was going to play the 4.
Right.
Now that was Jay's game. And so it was okay, whether you sacrifice a little bit and sacrifice and don't mind playing down there. Hey, come on, you can't get any better than going up against Patrick Ewing.
Yeah,
and trying to take it to him, and he's coming at you. That's kind of fun. That's what it's all about.
So take us on the recruiting trail, Raj. How did you wind up in BC? Who was recruiting you, and tell us some of the stories about your recruitment, how that all worked.
Recruiting, it came down to St. John's, NC State, BC, and Syracuse.
Right.
I thought we were in there. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were in there.
I was hoping.
Yeah. I had a great visit up in Syracuse. But what happened was it came down to this. I knew Louis Conaseco since I was 12 years old. I knew all their assistants and everything since I was a kid. And it wasn't right. It didn't feel right to go there after Chris went there.
Right.
It was time for me to do my own thing and move on. So, I had a great time up at Syracuse, and it probably really came down to Syracuse and BC. I visited. You might think I'm crazy, but I visited NC State. Jim Valvano's the coach. Had a great visit with him at my home. He loved my mother's cooking. He actually was trying to recruit my mother to come down there and cook and be their chef. And didn't care where I went to school, but wanted my mother. So, but I went down there, and it just wasn't for me. They back then they had their players. They were living in, I guess, a refurbished motel.
Oh, okay.
And that wasn't me. and compared to Syracuse, where, you stayed at, you had townhouses and everything like that you could stay at. Wasn't me. So, it came down to, BC and the way they played, the way Gary, at first it was Tom Davis.
Right.
He was the coach when I committed. And then Gary re-recruited me, and I liked the way they played. They played similarly, and I thought that they it best matched me.
So you graduated high school 82?
82, yep.
Yeah, so you were in Mike's class. Okay.
Yeah.
He's in.
Yeah,
we were in the
so-
same class.
So the style of play, I would think, absolutely, with Gary Williams would have been a lot better than with Tom Davis, no?
Yeah. It was because Tom Davis ran the flex,
Right.
and was very structured in how he ran the flex. Gary had his variation of the flex.
Right.
And what Gary was really good at, obviously because he won the national championship at Maryland, but what he was really good at was adapting his flex and his plays to individual players and their talents.
How so? How did he do that, Raj?
What he did was for instance, with Jay, he would run plays that with Jay would get his open jumpers.
Right.
Different ways of reversing the ball so that, Jay would get an open jumper. With me, it was more so he'd run plays, there are a lot of, and Chuck, you can remember this. There's something too, there's a lot of picks and screens for me to get open.
Right.
And then when he thought that I was going to go one way, he'd have a play set up so that I would go in the opposite direction or cut in a different way. So for me, it was really, it came down to, being able to score. And he put me in great positions to be able to score.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, the guys that we've talked to on and off the air both said that sometimes it was difficult because he was so methodical with how he ran everything. It was like you were getting X amount of shots and you were getting, was there any of that kind of stuff, like where, you knew before the game even came on that you were going to see a lot of touches that game, depending on who you were playing?
I did, just depending on how the defense was. So I just knew I loved playing against Syracuse. I love playing against Syracuse zone because I just knew that I knew where I could hit the areas, and I knew that we had plays that, where I'd be in the scoring position.
Yeah.
Nova on the opposite end, Nova, I couldn't stand playing against. And Chuck, you remember, Raleigh would be out there screaming out the play. McCready's going there to the baseline.
Oh yeah, yeah.
McCready's coming up into the middle, and I'm like, come on,
No.
Yeah.
No.
Let me get there first.
Let me tell you what, he was a genius, Raj, at if you gave him more than 2 days to prepare for somebody, we very rarely lost that type of game. Like when we went into the NCAAs, the first day of the weekend of that particular weekend, what was the first round, the second round, whatever, we didn't lose that first round game, because he had a week to prepare. And the guy watched films and figured out nuances. And not only him, but Mitch Bonaguro was a genius at some of those things too, seeing things. And everybody, when they prepped for you guys, say, they came out and talked about the game plan, whatever assistant coach had the game, and they would come out and talk to all of us, but they weren't allowed to bring notes, and they had to do everything, like I'm talking to you. So it's, so they had to know it like the back of their hand. Otherwise, they couldn't do it. So that's why he was, he knew exactly where you were going and when you were going to go there.
Yeah, it was tough, but you guys had a great staff too. So
yeah.
So I got to ask you, Raj, where did you like to get the ball coming off that flex? Do you like that flex low screen, or do you like the reversal at the elbow? That seemed like that was Martin Clark and that was Jay Murphy. That was like their little spot. I thought you liked it more down in the low mid post area, right?
Yeah, I liked it in the low mid post area.
Right.
I really liked it in the mid post area coming off that because everyone was waiting for me at the low post.
Right.
And Gary used to like get after me and say, run the offense, run the offense. But in the game, someone's waiting for me at the baseline.
Right.
So instead of going to the baseline, I cut into the mid post, that mid area, which no one does anymore. No one can score.
Right. But it also gave you a little more room to work.
Oh, yeah. Because I had the whole lane.
Right.
So
size is not as important. It's a little more quickness and footwork.
And when you have, really good passers,
right,
it is it's nice because, I think it was my junior year, I had the guy Terrence Talley.
Yeah.
And Terrence was pretty much ambidextrous. So if I was coming to the baseline, Terrence would pass it with his right hand. If I was coming into the mid post, Terrence would throw it with his left hand, his dominant hand. So it was really nice in my junior year.
You got any thoughts or memories of situations and games that you remember that stand out? Whether it's at a location or against an opponent, anything that kind of you remember when you look back?
Yeah, man, there's tons. I mean, playing. Well, obviously when Pearl hit that shot.
Well, that's right. You were on the other side of that. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I was on the other side of that.
Yeah, don't let him do that to you, Raj. He knows exactly who's on the other side.
I wasn't asking that question.
Yeah, Raj, you were on the other side of that.
But you know what the thing about this, most people don't realize this. It wasn't the shot so much for me that went in, that happens, is what Pearl did. See, if you ever watch the video again, Pearl took the shot and kept on running.
Oh, yeah.
He was in the locker room before the shot went in.
Yep.
I mean, I was just like, what? And I was just like, where is he? He literally never stopped. He knew it was going in and just ran into the locker room. So that was the thing that got me about that play. I mean, it was cool. It was really good. But you have, oh man, you have dunking on guys. I didn't dunk a lot, but a couple of times I did do it. It was a lot of fun. I got dunked on a lot. Back in those days. But and then stood out when my junior year when we lost, when the ball we were playing Memphis. No, we weren't.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, we were playing Memphis State.
Right? Yeah,
Memphis State. Yep.
And
Keith Lee.
what is it? 15 seconds left.
Yeah.
And I inbounds the ball, and the ball comes flying back to me, and it hits off my foot, goes to tie. What was this?
Andre Turner.
And they dribble up and shoot the jumper. That was killer.
That ruined the Final Four party for everybody, Roger.
It did.
Not to bring you down, but I mean, we thought it was going to be a whole Big East party going on.
Oh, we were taking out Oklahoma. See, that was
I agree with you.
We were taking out Oklahoma, Wayman, Tisdale, those guys.
Yeah.
And
listen, you had a tough run that year. I mean, you had Texas Tech, you beat them by 2. Then you got Duke by a point, right? And they had Tommy Amaker and who was the other guy that was with them?
Johnny Dawkins.
Johnny Dawkins.
Jay Billis.
Right. Oh, Jay was on that team too. That's
Mark Allery, right?
That's another.
That was a good squad too.
Oh,
Mark Allery.
That was one of our great, most fun victories. Beating them because they were talking a lot of smack. Dominic Presley, he's since passed away.
Yep.
Was teammates with Johnny Dawkins in high school. They both played at Mackin. And so there's a lot of smack being talked and everything. And then you had we come to find out Billy Packer was, calling us all kind of, derogatory things and everything like that we, couldn't measure up to Duke. So yeah, that was a big game for us. A lot of memories of that.
Was Harold Presley one of the fastest human beings you've ever seen?
Dom was, not Harold.
Oh, Dom, I'm sorry.
Not Kaz.
Yeah,
Dom.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That must have been a Freudian
No,
slip.
definitely not Harold.
Sorry. Forgive me.
Yeah, not Kaz.
Sorry,
Yeah.
no, not Harold. Dominic, yeah.
Dom was one of the fastest human beings that could not stay on the court. And when I say that is that he went out of bounds so many times because he was so fast and he could not stop at the end line.
Really?
Yeah. He was just, it would drive Gary crazy. Because he was just, well, among other things.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Dom was just, he was incredible. I think Dom ended up, he tried out for the Dallas Cowboys or someone else after basketball because he was so quick and so fast.
Yeah.
I could see him now. I mean, he's a Deion Sanders speed,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. But it was so funny. He would try and stop, and he just could not stop. And it was just like right over the sideline to be like, ah.
Yeah. Him and Harold are related in some way. I believe they're cousins, Dominic and Harold. So
yeah, but nobody's going to confuse Harold for Dominic when we talk.
No,
okay?
not if you're lining up to.
That was just a bad statement.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Harold, you were there for this stuff. Let's talk about playing in your home arena there on campus. He got tortured there by your fans, the Harold chants. And oh my God, that was a tough place to play, Raj. Holy cow.
Yeah, Robert said it was really good. I mean, it was good because the fans are right
not
even a foot off the sidelines.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you guys ever got tapped or hit or anything like that, but my roommates in college, they weren't ball players, and they would get tickets and sit right there around midcourt, and used to love messing with players from other teams. It was
we didn't have a lot of success up there. I can tell you that much.
No.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard, for opposing teams, and especially when there was a ranked team. Forget about it. They packed the place, and good thing fire marshals weren't around.
Did you have anything to do with giving the crowd some of that info?
About who?
Who they were going to pick on? Like, hey, let's go after.
No. I just my roommates were like well informed, so maybe they got a hint from before the game and just talking smack. But no, but they were good. They were good at it, along with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough place to play. I know Harold hated going there. I mean, he later on after he kept that with them because the freshman year the guys really killed him, and then he kept that with him. And
I don't think he ever had a good game at Roberts Center.
No, he definitely did not. No.
Well, that fuels the fire even more, right? So this
that's what I was about to say. Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He always had good games, but not at that place. So talk about what it was like to play in Boston back then a little bit. I get a call from Dwight Wilbur's dad. Okay, because Dwight and I roomed together. He goes, "You guys are going to Boston. Keep Dwight near you." Was it racially charged there as much as everybody says, Rod? Was it crazy?
I was going to ask the same question.
Was it crazy there for some of the African-American players?
It was. We knew where not to go.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we went out and hung out in all parts of Boston. We had the feeling of that we had to stay close to campus, because we didn't know what would happen if we went, outside downtown Boston, literally going to a Red Sox game. I mean, I never went to a Red Sox game. You know, I had fear of what would happen if I went to a Red Sox game.
Now,
You know?
could you have gone to a game? Would you have felt more comfortable going with a guy like Martin Clark or Jay Murphy or one of those guys?
Yes, but no.
Okay.
I would maybe feel more comfortable, but it wasn't about my comfort. It was about the people in Boston's comfort.
Yeah, right.
You know, and what they felt and what they saw and what they came from, their backgrounds. So, you know, a lot of times we weren't willing to, you know, take that chance, you know, back then.
I don't
So,
blame you.
Yeah, coming from the city to that has to be a big culture shock.
yeah, that was one of the, you know, main things. My mother was, you know, scared shit
Yeah.
about me going to Boston, you know, and you know, the whole thing was, you know, we're going to be around campus, be on campus, you know, most of the time. And, you know, I had the problems. I wasn't going to go, you know, out back into downtown Boston, go to South, let alone South Boston, Charlestown, and anything like that. Back then, African-American people, people of color would not be caught in those neighborhoods unless, you know, they didn't know that something was going to happen to them. You know, now obviously it's a different time, you know, fast forward, you know, 30 years. But back then, nah, man. No go.
Yeah. It was interesting because it threw me for a loop when his dad said to me, "Hey, you know, stick close. You guys are going to Boston, you know." And I go, I don't even know. I didn't even know what he was talking about, to be honest with you, at the time. And then we had a conversation, Dwight and I went, oh, okay. You know, so I kind of got it, you know, in short order when you were walking around the streets down there and stuff. But I was just curious. I was just curious how it was being there, like, you know, living there, you know.
Yeah, it's like I said, we just, you know, the community around BC, you know, was cool, was great, and everything. Yeah. Maybe we ventured down a little bit to BU, which is on the same trolley line.
Yeah.
As
yeah.
You know,
what color line
ends?
What one ends in Newton? Is that what color line?
It was the green line.
Green line, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you had easy access. You could get about, because Newton was a kind of a nice area, was it not?
Yeah, Newton was, you know, is high end, you know, high end area.
Right.
You know, you had you know, a lot of Celtics lived in the, you know, that area. You know, we used to have great scrimmages with those guys in the preseason.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Because they talked about those guys coming down. What are some of the memories you have of matching up with some of the big boys?
Yeah, it was great, man. Talk about competition and talked about, you know, can you play or can't you play? You know, it's time to, you know, shut up and play. You know, you have Bill Walton, you have Chief, you have Danny Ainge, you know,
McHale.
You have McHale. You know, well, put it this way: the only person you didn't have was Larry Bird. Everyone else came and played. You know, Eric Fernstein, he like busted my eye open.
Was Kite in that mix too?
Kite was in that mix too.
So how did that work? How did that work, Raj? They knew when you guys were about to run pick, you know, because everybody played pickup as well as practice.
They just knew.
They just showed up.
At, you know, we would play pickup at, you know, whatever 3:15. They just showed up, and you know, Gerald Henderson. You know, I can go on DJ Dennis Johnson. You know, all those guys came down and, you know, played, and it was great, man. Talk about, and it was just like next man up. You wanted to stay on the court, just like playing out in the park. You know, it wasn't like, okay, you win and then another team comes on, you know, or two teams come on, both teams get off. No, you stayed on. And we mixed, and you know, we mixed and matched. It wasn't all Celtics against all, you know, BC players.
Right.
So playing against that level of competition in pickup, really changes your viewpoint when you play a Ewing, a Wennington. I don't know if you played against Charles Smith, but
Charles
Andre,
played against. Yeah, it was
these
like,
are big boys, but you're like,
hey,
I played against these other guys. What's this?
these are your top players. Back then, remember, those were the finals.
Right.
Those were Eastern finals. Those were those were the NBA championships. So we're
Write it
playing
down.
against those guys. I'm playing against those guys, and I'm not playing any different. Maybe I'm shooting the ball from outside more than I did when I was playing with the team. But I'm going at them inside, scoring inside, trying, defending these guys.
Yeah.
And so, did it? I don't know if it made it easy for the Big East season, but it knew that I knew that, if I could do it against these guys, I could compete in the Big East.
What about playing in the Garden? What was that like, Raj? I know you guys played most of your games at Roberts, but you did play a few at the Garden. What was that like playing in that place?
Insanity. When we had games at the Boston Garden, fans came, they packed it up, and it was great atmosphere. Great atmosphere. I mean, I remember 1 year, I think it was my senior year, when we beat Syracuse at the Garden. I think they had Ronnie. You had Ronnie Cycli.
Hold on a second.
And Mike Adams had a great game, and the Garden was just insane. Oh, no, on the other hand, we had great games with Georgetown.
Yeah.
There, and we never beat them at the Garden, but you had the Patch Ewing people coming and everything, and so great atmosphere. It's too bad they don't do that anymore.
We lost to you my sophomore year, your freshman year in the Garden. I remember that.
Well, I remember.
I won't go into it, but I remember a certain play that should have been called the other one. That's another story. We'll let that go.
He still holds on to this stuff.
Because I was involved in it, so I'm going to tell you. You remember that play where, when a guy runs the baseline,
right?
And you took the charge from the other guy. So I remember I was there. They ran it, and then it came off, and I took the charge, and there was no call. And I remember Boeheim losing his mind. But anyway, that was We had gotten beat by you guys in Hartford the year before my freshman year. We blew a 12-point or whatever point lead in Bagley and Adams. It was an unbelievable clinic, and I was part of that one too. But that was a disappointment. But this other one was a very hard fought game. First time for us in the Garden in the Big East tournament. Disappointing loss again to the Eagles. That's 2 years in a row.
Wow. Well, the Boston Garden was wild because they had those big gaps in the floor.
Oh, they had those dead
I was the first guy out of the locker room
Yeah.
because I wanted to walk out on the court by myself and see all the banners and everything, and take all of that in. And I dribbled the ball, and the ball hit the floor and never came back up. I've never seen that.
But you got to talk about the locker rooms first. How
yeah.
bad those locker rooms were. Those things were 160 degrees.
I was going to say.
It was awful. It was you had pipes running through there.
No, it was a sauna. You came in, you were exhausted before you even got to warm-ups.
That's right.
And then you have Gary going crazy, at halftime and everything like that. The poor man would sweat through, shirt, suit, and everything like that,
Yeah.
Now, what was it like playing because he's an emotional guy. He's so intense, like he could stare a buffalo off a nickel. I mean, what was it like playing for him your 4 years?
Gary, it's very easy. You have a lot of people say that, oh, well, a coach gets the most out of somebody, but he really did, and he was all about, just intensity.
Right.
He just wants you to match his intensity. He wasn't asking you to go out there and give your all, and he's just gonna, stand and watch and everything. He's gonna give his all too. So if he's gonna give his all, you got to give your all also. And once you got that, that between leaving high school and having to match that intensity is very difficult.
Yeah.
But once you get that as, your sophomore or your junior, or, some people just never get it, but, you get that as your sophomore, junior, he's like, he leaves you alone. He knows what he's going to get out of you.
Well, yeah.
And you play,
Yeah, you build that bond, that trust. And that, to me, you could see that there were certain guys that he trusted, right? He knew that first of all, he didn't have to coach your effort, and he didn't have to coach certain things, and he could trust you.
Yeah.
There's no better compliment you could have.
No, some people, would say that, oh, well, he's just too intense. He's too in your face and everything like that. But, that's what he do, and he wouldn't be the coach. He was great X and O's and everything like that.
Yeah.
We didn't have a free flow offense all the time. We wanted the offense where, okay, you call a lot of plays. And he was really good. He knew basketball, so he knew what plays he wanted to call, what would work against certain teams, and was able to make that adjustment if things, his game plan didn't work. So, yeah, good man, good coach.
I think that was
Great
a sign of the times, Raj, too. I mean, we all played for, top-notch screamers. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you talk about Coach Boeheim and Coach Mass, forget it. It was off the chart. So I think that was a sign of the times. You kind of wonder sometimes with their style, like, well, Boeheim is still doing what he does 46 years later, but you kind of wonder if Mass's style and Gary's style would still hold up in today's game.
So rumor was, Sonny, that at Syracuse, when you did suicides, you never had to touch the lines. Is that true?
Pearl didn't have to touch the line.
Well, let me put it this way. Not everybody had to touch the line.
Right.
You can figure that out, right? Not
everybody.
Okay,
right.
I got you.
Oftentimes, certain guys hit the line just as the coach turned his head. So I don't know that they ever saw that they missed the line.
Right.
But I know damn sure I had to touch that line.
That's true. That's true. So let's talk about post. First of all, before we get to that, we've got a question. Do you still keep in touch with Coach Williams, and do you keep in touch with some of the guys that you played with, or not as much?
No, not really. I stay in touch with Tim O'Shea.
Okay.
Every now and then, Jay Murphy or something like that. I used to stay in touch with Don Presley.
Right.
But yeah, Mark Schmidt, stay in touch with. He's doing a great job up there at St. Bonnie's.
There's a hell of a coach right there.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
He's incredible up there. So yeah, stay in touch with those guys.
So talk to us about post Big East now, Raj. Okay. So you get done. Were you drafted? Because I couldn't find any information. Did you get drafted?
I wasn't drafted. I wasn't drafted.
Okay.
Pissed me off. Wasn't drafted. So instead of, when I found out I wasn't drafted, I went out and bought my first car to make myself happy.
Okay.
But then I went on and
you coached, right?
I coached for a while.
Talk about that for a second. Now you were at, if I got it correct, you were at 4 schools in 4 years, right?
Yeah, I rose pretty quickly.
Talk about that, and where were you at, and what were your positions?
I was at, I was at Yale. I started off with Yale.
Okay.
And I was coaching there, and I was a volunteer coach. And so during the day before practice, what I did was I did construction to pay the bills. Okay. So I learned construction and flipped houses.
Okay.
Learn a lot from that.
A little HGTV here. All right.
Right.
What's that?
A little HGTV.
Yeah, there you go.
Property Brothers.
Right.
All right.
Property Brothers. There you go.
So then I but then I got the Columbia job. Wally Hallis was the head coach,
Okay.
and I ended up being assistant there. And then I got the job at UMass with Calipari. With John
How was that
Calipari.
working with him?
It was good. You know, John was young. You know, it was his
Right.
first head coaching job. But talk about someone that knew what he wanted to do. Someone that knew what they wanted to do and how they were going to do it. Man, he was organized. And John knew his recruiting.
Yeah.
You know,
That was
so,
back in the day when him and John Chaney went at each
Him
other.
and John
right?
Chaney didn't get along too well.
I'm gonna kick your
I'm gonna
ass.
kill you. I'm gonna kill you.
Do you remember that?
Were you in a lot? You were there for that?
No, I wasn't there for that.
Okay.
I was there. But there were, prior to that, the year that I was there, intense battles.
Oh yeah.
Intense battle. Because you know, that was John. John wasn't going to back away from anybody.
Did you keep
And
flipping
he didn't
houses?
want his players to back away from anybody.
Did you keep flipping houses?
No, I didn't keep flipping houses. I was making a little bit of money then. So I
Okay.
didn't have to flip houses anymore.
I figured because you were up at Yale and then you're back at UMass, maybe similar, you know, geography.
No, I didn't do that.
They
Only
moved
I
up.
flipped my buddy's basement. That's about as far as I got.
That's it. And then you
But,
wind up there in Maryland after that, right? For a
And then
little bit.
I was at Maryland with Gary.
Now, were you under coach under Coach Williams or?
Yeah, I was under Coach
Okay.
Williams.
Now,
And that was talk about, you know, big time, you know, and big time program, ACC, you know, that was fantastic. That was fantastic.
You
Well,
were there. You were there
was gonna
though,
ask
Raj.
you that.
You had to be there like right after like Lenny died and all of that went on, right?
Exactly.
So it wasn't. So what was that like? Trying to get through that mess as a new staff at that school? That had to be tough, man.
Recruiting was, and you know, that's the main thing. Recruiting was hard.
Yeah.
Recruiting was very hard. Recruiting was very hard in the Maryland, DC area,
All the
Maryland, DC,
DMV and
Virginia
everything,
area.
right? Yeah. St. George
Because
County.
We replaced Bob Wade, you know, who
legend.
first of all, you know, big time African American coach
Right.
in that area, and people didn't want to see him go. You know, and then you know you had the whole Lefty Drizel thing
Yeah.
going also there. Still, Lefty was very big there, so it was hard. It was hard to get things up and going, and the recruiting. You know, that's what got me out of coaching was just the recruiting aspect of it. You know, it was difficult, and you ran into what it was like to be at a big time school. You know?
Yeah. And in order to do anything back then, you had to be a road warrior, man. Right. I mean, when we were all getting recruited, I remember seeing Seth Greenberg at every place I went. He was there, you know. You have to be, it's not like now where you can get on social media and contact these guys. You know, you have to be in their face pretty much at a game or whatever, right? Back then.
When those, back then, you know, what the recruiting is, I literally would just pack a bag and pack a second bag and leave it in my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be gone, you know, for 2-3 weeks, then
Wow.
come back, you know, drop what I had with me, pick up the other bag and take off again. And, you know, recruiting then was a little bit out of control, you know,
Yeah.
back then. It was a lot of the Wild West and, you know, some, you know, not so nice stories and what was happening. So, you know, I was in it because I love basketball,
Okay.
you know, kind of a basketball purist, and I enjoyed coaching and enjoyed coaching players and everything. But you know, recruiting aspect wasn't me, and like I said, it was the Wild West back then.
So
Let me ask you this question though.
Go ahead, son.
Because Gary Williams talked about it. He said when he took the job at Boston College, they took a vow of poverty. He didn't think the coaches had to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Now,
Just say that.
changing from Boston College to Maryland, what were some of the differences that you saw in just basically the facilities and the money they put into their basketball program?
Well, it's, it was night and day in
Right.
terms of facilities. Robert Center was great and everything like that. But in terms of locker rooms, in terms of getting things done, things for players and everything, academic support. I won't even tell you academic support back in BC. We had one academic advisor. Okay, but that was for everybody. He was academic advisor for the football team. Okay, academic advisor for the track team and everything. So just things like that. You had an academic advisor there at Maryland. The facilities were just fantastic. I mean, you bring a recruit in, and the facility was half full just for the recruit. Before the game. So it was just, it was totally radio, TV coverage. We had at BC, we had Bob Ryan back in those days, who always kind of sour on BC. Never wanted to give us any credit until we beat someone in the tournament. And he's like on the bandwagon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's out there.
These are my guys. These are my Eagles. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But always good. We had Jackie McMullen. Right. She always treated us well. Fantastic. But when you talk about it, Maryland, you had, the Baltimore Sun, you had, the DC papers and everything. They were on it all the time.
Michael Wilbon, was he down there at the same time?
I'm not sure. I don't think Wilbon was down there. I can't remember the name of the beat writer for the Baltimore Sun.
Sun, yeah.
But he's legendary, and so it was great. It was fantastic, but you were under a microscope.
So what was the difference, Raj, of your relationship with Coach Williams as a player versus as somebody on his staff? How did that work?
There was a lot of saying. He trusted me. Like at BC as a player,
right?
He trusted me. He knew what he's going to get out of me. It wasn't going to be any BS or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I knew I knew what he wanted to do. I knew the offense. I knew what he wanted to accomplish. I knew all those things. So I think what's easy for me to work for him. And I think he felt comfortable with me, knowing that, hey, I can, tell the players, hey, this is what's going to do. This is what's going to happen. This is what we're looking for. Offensively, this is what we're looking for defensively. But like I said, it was a bit of a challenge. I was the youngest full-time assistant in the ACC at the time.
Oh, wow.
I was 28. I was 28. So, and so it was, games were great. Practices were great. Recruiting was hard.
Yeah.
When did you decide to go to law school?
Wait, I was just going to ask. And I know you went to Hofstra, right?
Yeah, I went to Hofstra with
out here on my island.
Once again,
I didn't hear from you.
I went to Hofstra, went to law school. It was a few years after I stopped coaching. I went to law school, and I'm in law school my first year, and I'm playing pickup, with these guys, and all of a sudden this guy walks in the gym. Is like, Roger, what are you doing here? And guess who it is?
Jay Wright.
Jay Wright. And we start talking, and he's like, "Yeah, my wife's a lawyer." I'm like, "Good for you, come on, come on down, come to the game anytime." So, yeah, it was, law school was a challenge, that was, I took it as a challenge, like playing,
Yeah.
it was just, only difference was intellectual. That's all.
But you're also much older probably than the average law student.
That I was. And, I was in it for a different reason. You get these, you would get these kids that are 22 and they're coming out and they go, they do it for the family. They do it because, it's something to do and not sure that they want to practice. I went to law school knowing that I wanted to be an attorney, and that I wanted to practice law, and I was gonna continue doing that. So and being mature, it's funny that you mentioned it, Sonny, because I'm a believer that kids shouldn't be able to go to law school right after college. I think they need to go out and experience a little bit more out there and be able to bring something to law school and legal profession, or whatever other profession they're going to go to after law school. But I think they don't serve the law school. They don't serve themselves a lot of good coming straight out of college. Life, I think you guys would agree, life experiences are the best, better than any postgraduate school.
Now, when you went, what was the impact for your family? Because I know, like, for myself, I was one of very few in our family that went to college and then went on to professional school. My folks, my cousins, they were tickle pink. I mean, what was your family's reaction when you're in law school?
Well, it's funny because I have three. I have an older brother and two younger brothers.
Okay.
My youngest brother, he played at Yale under Dick Kuchin and Tim O'Shea. When I went to law school, they were all shocked. They're like, Roger, wait, it's like Roger played basketball, coaching and everything. Then he goes to law school. So that all of a sudden, for me to go to postgraduate, and they're like, if Roger's going to postgrad, we're all going to postgrad. And so ends up, two other brothers end up going to law school after me.
Huh, wow, that's great.
My one brother, who he later says to me, he says, is something the matter with me that I didn't go to law school? I'm like, yeah, it's okay, Lance. It's okay. You're a PhD. You're a doctor. You're a doctor in your field. It's all right that you didn't go to law school. You did good.
And how long have you been practicing? Did you start out in your own practice, or did you?
No, I went from law school into the DA's office, the attorney's office. So I've been there some 27 years.
Yeah. That's great.
Wow.
Well, I tell you what, that's a great way. So you're still in the DA's office in the city, right? I imagine. Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
And that's what a great story, Raj, going from being an athlete and being somebody that a lot of kids looked up to and things like that, being kind of the underdog at your position, being a little undersized, and now, having a great career after playing. Didn't go the route that we all dream of going to. Neither did Sonny or I. We didn't go that route either.
He ain't a Hall of Famer for nothing, baby.
Right. Exactly. So, Hall of Fame player at BC and Hall of Fame guy. Thanks a lot for being with us, Raj. Really appreciate you coming out and hanging with Sonny and I tonight on the show.
Thanks.
Thanks, Raj.
And Sonny, make sure you say hello to Sinicki.
I will. I was just talking to his boy today because he's helping coach the high school, and they had a little scuffle after the game.
So. There you go.
No.
Trying to get the story.
You've been listening to the Big East Rewind with Chuck Everson and Sonny Sperra, and our guest today was Roger McCready. The Big East Rewind is produced and directed by Nick Chico Chorus and Daryl Gurney. Check us out on all things social media by putting Big East Rewind in the search bar. You can get our podcast wherever you get those, whether on Spotify or iTunes. And we're on YouTube as well. Just put Big East Rewind in the bar and all 80-something shows will come up. I can't believe it's that many, actually, Sonny. You know, it's been a long time.
Up on 100 soon, man.
Hitting 100 soon. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us, and have a great night.